Welcome to the UN Brief. I'm your host, Maya Plants. Today we interview Diplomat Gerardo Diaz Bartolome. He was posted at Argentina's embassy in Washington D.C., where he was Deputy Chief of Mission. Previous to that, he was at the Argentina's mission to the United Nations in New York. We spoke about digital diplomacy, public diplomacy, and how multilateral organizations are adapting to the post-pandemic times. Thank you for watching the UN Brief. Don't forget to subscribe. What do you see are the lessons learned in this last 18 months of the pandemic?
To realize how important face-to-face interaction is and reevaluate in the proper context. At the same time, we got used to the last tools and digital platforms and other technological developments our countries are coping with. Before the pandemic, of course, their digital diplomacy already existed, and diplomats were using mainly social media and some video conferencing tools. But we had not gone that far into the artificial intelligence world, augmented reality, chat box, automation of messages. So the pandemic was very beneficial in that sense, as it made us aware of the many possibilities that some resources have to help us, to complement, not to replace our work. Another lesson is that finally, as I said, the digital diplomacy did not stick only to public diplomacy, but it went beyond that, and it actually involved the traditional multilateral and bilateral diplomacy.
Can you comment on that? I'm actually thinking of using social media as a broadcasting tool, but we also can use it to communicate and to interact with communities. Can you expand on that concept?
Public diplomacy is basically that part of diplomacy which is addressed to audiences, to foreign audiences. It's not meant to, deal with the official counterparts as we do. That's the official outreach and broadcasting, as you say. That has to do with the traditional diplomacy, government to government, which is the super official line of work. Public diplomacy transcends that. It is meant to engage, to dialogue with audiences, foreign audiences. It's not the official interlocutors or governmental officials or congressmen you're addressing your message to. It involves a two-way communication with the people in the country you are accredited to. So that is very, very informal in a way, enriching, and you need to, as you said, engage communication, the audience, and make them like and actually love your country, your culture, your food, your wine, your music, know your country from a different perspective. That certainly complements hand in hand the official line of broadcasting or information, where the information comes from the top and you disseminate the official press releases, the official position of your country on a multitude of topics, but it's not necessarily meant to interact with the counterpart. So what I saw because of the pandemic, that digital diplomacy was certainly catalyzed, and we went beyond the public diplomacy field we had been working on before. Because before the pandemic, you had like the official lines of information posted online through social media, be it Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. But with the pandemic, the big difference and one of the main lessons learned, and that world leaders, international organizations, high officials, and diplomats ourselves had to go digital too. Because it's not just a formal setting at the UN we all go for. It's the sidelines, the bilateral meetings, it's the whole world. You are very well acquainted with that. The UN brief keeps reporting.
Bilateral meetings, right? Yes, I covered the J in the early 2000s. It's like tons of people coming and going, side events. that's the moment where diplomacy happens. We see
Absolutely.
multilateralism in action, really. So
Behind an ambassador is usually a team helping him out with his social media. But I wrote an article about that where I contended that it's not necessarily a generational matter, and not everybody agreed. I got many messages, very kind messages, respectfully disagreeing with my view, but I stick to my to my belief, and it doesn't have to do with generational issues. There are many ambassadors, senior diplomats, so not only ambassadors, who are very active online. They are good communicators, and there are some younger junior diplomats that are not, either because they don't feel like doing it. Sometimes they don't have the comfort to tweet or to speak on their behalf, because even if you make it clear that, as I just said, that you're talking or doing this interview in my personal capacity, you are still a diplomat. So that's not, you cannot say whatever you feel like saying sometimes, even if it is in a personal capacity, because you are still a diplomat and you represent your country. So I made the caveat and the disclaimer, but I am still a diplomat. So that is something that ministries of foreign affairs are working on, to have like the proper tools to guide diplomats on the use of social media, because sometimes an opinion which may seem personal may end up in a bilateral or multilateral controversy. So it's very important to be aware of the sensitivities of what you say and how you say that. We have, of course, like many other ministries, protocols of use and guidance rules, and we have the proper training. It's sort of a new thing in our system, as it's pretty recent. It's been here for like the last decade, I would say. But it's very important because it's a very important part of our job, communicating what we do. I mean, and you need to know how to do that properly, and that is not only public diplomacy as it used to. Now it goes beyond the realm of public diplomacy, so it's even more complex. And but it's an amazing world, and I see so many opportunities. And at the same time, even if there is a digital divide in the world, we cannot deny that. At the same time, the virtual world democratizes diplomacy in many other ways.
Thank you for watching the UN Brief. Don't forget to subscribe,